The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for this live training of Module 6, How to Locate Your Investment Property. So we have Dr. Ong KL here from Singapore. He's going to share with you and do the training live. Thanks for logging in. Can you just type in the chat box? Let us know that you are fine using the audio, using the chat box, so that later in the session you can ask some questions if you want to. So just type in the chat box, just make sure everything is working before we get the session started. Thank you, Daniel, David, Wong Chi Wing. Wow, great, nice to have you all here. Good morning. So I'll let Dr. Ong to carry on the session.
Okay, thanks, Casey. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Property Method. Today's Module 6. We're going to learn about how to locate our investment property. This module, so-called, is bringing us to the second phase of this entire course. The previous 5 modules, we were concentrating on the initial planning to prepare ourselves before we embark into the property investment. So from this module until the following 3 more modules is considered so-called the execution phase for us to really exercise and practice, and also to execute whatever we have learned and we have prepared and we have already planned. And for this module, we were going to cover some tricks to locate great real estate agents first for us to work with. And we also discuss where to find cheap properties worth investing, and also property details that we should check before putting any of our money down to buy any property. So moving into the second phase of this course, which is about executing our plan. Now we have reached the point of seriously looking for real estate investment that will best fit our investment goals. It is at this point we should consider whether or not we should employ the services of real estate agents. Okay. So how to find a good property agent for us to work with when we start to invest in real estate? And first thing first, I think why should we consider employ a property agent at all? I think this should be the first question that we should ask ourselves. And what can he do for us that he may not be able to do, that we may not be able to do ourselves? First of all, if we select the right agent, if we're able to find a very good agent, the right agent, he will be able to guide us from our initial goal setting phase through the selections, acquisitions, and management of our investment. His services may help make our venture an outstanding real estate investment, especially for the first-time investor. And a knowledgeable property agent not only understands and practices the many different aspects of real estate investing, but he also knows the market very well. And when it comes to negotiating the purchase, a real estate agent is a middleman who is able to get an agreement between buyer and seller. When it comes to selling or renting a property, he again is a salesperson able to locate the right buyer or tenant for us. And when it comes to the property agent, we want should have the so-called basic knowledge in real estate investment. Other than real estate investing, tax management, financing knowledge also is the field of knowledge that we expect a real estate agent at least should have some basic knowledge about all this field. He should be quite experienced in the field because it is his only business. However, there are many full-time real estate salespeople who have never been active or have never become knowledgeable in the field of real estate investment. Since we are about to invest the largest sum of our money that we have ever spent, so we definitely deserve the best. So this answer the question that we asked, why we need so-called good property agents to help us in property investment. So how do we find this so-called perfect agent? We will have to look hard for them in many different places. For example, we can contact them through property listings and advertisements on local papers, through internet, or referrals like our relatives and friends. So give those agents a call and ask them some questions about property investment to start the entire evaluation process, whether it's the correct one or not. The evaluation process is actually quite simple. We will give you a set of questions to ask them, and through this process, you will certainly realize who are the capable ones to assist you on your investment journey. So now let's look at the list of questions that we prepare for you. So some of the questions that we may want to ask a potential agent, like how old is this property? Normally when we contact an agent, we will normally start from some property that we are interested in. So ask about some details about the property. How old is the property? Is it furnished or unfurnished? So is the property a leasehold property or freehold property? And, how big is the built-up area? How much is the monthly maintenance cost, if there's any maintenance involved? Any other expenses of this property other than the monthly maintenance cost? Has the individual title issue, for example, for those condominium or apartment? Why does the owner want to sell? The reason, if it is a good property, why the owner still want to sell it away? So sometimes you may find some interesting information from by asking this kind of question. And also, what is the lowest offering price that the owner cannot so-called accept? Is the price reasonable in the market? So this is one of the questions that to test how knowledgeable the agent is. If he's experienced in the market, he should know whether the price asked by the owner is reasonable or not in the market. And any room for negotiation, this is to test whether the agent is confident enough to help you in the negotiation. How much is the highest and lowest rent you can get for this property? So this is to find out whether this particular agent is able or is confident enough to help you secure a tenant if you successfully purchase the property. And the last question that you may want to ask is how long you will need to find a tenant for that property. So this again gives you some idea of the confidence level that agent able to help you to rent out the property in future. Okay. So when we are evaluating a property agent, so we have to watch out for some agents with certain characteristics. For example, for those who can't answer most of the questions we ask about property and its prospect of investing, such as the how old is the property, the expected rents, rental demand, maintenance costs, etc. This means that this agent may not be knowledgeable enough to assist us. And the other character we have to watch out, if an agent is so-called no reply to us at all after we call him or her, this may show that the agent may be quite picky over his clients. And for those agents that respond to our inquiries slowly until we have to remind him again and again, this agent may not be interested to serve us. And last, some agents if they prefer to SMS you instead of calling you. So these kind of agents, they may be quite so-called calculative. He may not even want to fork out money to advertise for customers. So this is some small things, but it's quite, how to say, important for us to take note. For
Yeah,
example,
now they'll use WhatsApp more than SMS, I guess.
Yes. So normally for SMS, unless they're trying to deliver details like numbers, address, which will be more clearly delivered through all this kind of WhatsApp or SMS. So other things that I think conversation through phone will be more effective for a transaction or for a deal of a property. So if how to say, if he's quite reluctant to even speak to you further, so we sometimes will think that the agent is how to say, he may be considered too much about the cost. Maybe he has a lot of clients so-called to speak to, so he would rather cut down the cost. So this kind of agents, they have the potential, they will try to calculate all the costs when they are doing their sales. So we wouldn't want agents that are so-called too calculative, even to cut down the cost to advertise for you, especially when you want to advertise, when you want him to advertise to look for a buyer or look for tenants.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so in summary, there are two simple rules of thumb how to spot so-called good property agent. The first one is if you encounter any agent who care to go for extra miles, I mean, who are able to provide more information and services than what we wanted, these agents, then we can say that is considered a good property agent. Then the second one, of course, fast response, because time is the money. So if a property agent able to respond to you fast, not only to save your money, save your time, he also save his own money and his time also, because we whoever I think have any experience doing sales, we know that if you're able to close sales fast enough, the time that you save is an opportunity cost to you. Okay, so now let's go to another question. Who's agent? So in property market, although normally people may think that a property agent is employed by the seller of a property, there's nothing wrong for a buyer to engage an agent to find property for him. If an agent is engaged by a buyer, the agent should then represent the buyer and is obligated to look for properties that the buyer wants at the lowest price and the best terms to the buyer. But in Malaysia, the market rate of agent's professional fee or the commission is normally seller pays 1 to 2% of the purchase price, while the buyer pays 1%. So who pays the commission? It seems to be a norm also that in most transactions, there's only one property agent in Malaysia, a salesperson that appointed by a seller. So it is always not advisable to just rely on seller's agent in our purchase, because there's always conflict of interest. The agent tends to side the seller since his pay is proportional to the purchase price. So in the case of only one real estate agent involved in the transaction, so who is going to pay him the commission, seller or buyer? In fact, according to the Board of Valuer, Appraisers and Estate Agents of Malaysia, a property or a real estate agent should not accept fees from more than one party in any transaction. For example, if you are buying an auction property from a bank through a property agent assigned by the bank, that agent should only receive commission from the bank, and we don't need to pay the agent any commission. In this case, because bank is the seller, and bank employs the agent, and they shall, the bank should pay the commission to the agent, not us as a buyer. So here we would like to highlight, okay, that services and investment guideline and investment guidance that we can receive from a good property agent is well worth what we pay him. Of course, if you like the services, try to pay the agent well and also pay on time, because that is
Okay.
they deserve that rewards. So, of course, in order to save some transaction costs, we can always do it on our own or DIY, do it yourself, by finding a property ourselves and negotiating directly with owner of property. Then we don't have to pay commission to any middleman or any agent. So where do we begin if you choose this option to locate properties? If you choose not to employ an agent, or we prefer to do it ourselves? Okay, in this case, watching the for sale by owner advertisement is probably going to be our primary source of available investments. Although most ads do not tell us much, we can always contact the owner directly and get enough questions being answered over the phone to decide if it is worth investing. There is one thing to take note here if you prefer to look for property personally. We rarely see for sale signs on investment or rental properties as we normally do with houses. So that means that those property got tenants inside, so the owners would not prefer to put a for sale sign outside the building, because most owners do not want their tenants to know that their temporary shelter is for sale. But when we found investment or rental property that is for sale, try not to talk to the tenants. Especially don't tell them that this building is for sale and that we are considering to buy it, because you may have a higher chance that the owner might take the property off the market and refusing to sell just to prove to his tenant that this is not for sale. Most owners seem to feel that if their tenants find out the building is for sale, they will all move out. Okay, so I think owners, they will prefer to have a existing income. So for those that are not so motivated to sell it in so-called sell it fast, the property sell it fast, they will prefer just to keep the tenant in the building rather to sell it away. Of course, this is not true. Okay, from our experience, this is not true at all. But of course, don't try to convince the owner of that, because when the owner decided how to say, have their own mindset, it's very difficult for us to tell them the truth that the tenant is how to say, it will not be affected if you put a sign of for sale there, because most of the time when people know that property or that building is for sale, I think in a very short time the tenants are all aware also. And for some cases that we encounter, even the tenants, once the tenants know that, the tenants will even want to buy from the owner. So only for those very conservative owners. So that is just a note for us to take when we want to do it ourselves. We just have to understand better about the owner preference first. Don't talk to the tenants first. Just proceed to negotiate with the buyer once we found the property that we want. Okay. The next topic that we are going to discuss here is how to locate cheap properties. We all have a strong interest in purchasing a cheap property, of course. There are several ways of locating one or cheap properties. Let's first discuss the term cheap property. What's considered a cheap property? Normally, cheap properties are some problematic properties, but they are not necessarily bad investment. They may be poorly maintained, poorly managed, or have continual vacancies. Most of the time, financial problems or the owner's problem are creating such problematic situation. In fact, almost all of these problems can be resolved. As an investor, we just have to prepare ourselves attending to these problems, and in return, we will find ourselves having more choices of affordable or cheap investment. Here are a few common reasons an investment property may be selling cheap. The first one, okay, death of the owner or the settling of an estate. Here, estates is the properties of a dead person. They're going to pass to
The next of
so-called
kin.
nominee.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
beneficiary.
Yeah, the beneficiary. So these properties are generally priced at fair market value or slightly below, so that the estate can be settled quickly. For example, in the event of many people inheriting a property from a grandfather, so the siblings may want to liquidate that property and divide the money as soon as possible. But for your information, there's no easy way to locate this kind of properties. Most of the time, they are from someone we or our agents know. The second one comes from partnership disputes. Some of the most reasonable price investment on the market are a result of two or more partners who are disagreeing and want to dissolve their partnership. A typical example is a divorcing couple. And again, like the previous one, there's no easy way to spot this kind of property from advertisement or whatever, unless it is from someone that we know.
Mm-hmm. So networking
Okay,
with
the third
the
one.
agent is very important, right? You have
Yes.
you got to have
The
several
more
agents.
yes, the
more
broader the
agent you have,
networking,
right? Okay.
yes,
I
yeah, they may have more lobang
like it.
or more
lobang.
information of this kind of
Well
Okay,
said.
the third one, those properties that the owner may be facing financial problem with the property. The owner may be facing a mortgage and does not have enough the money to pay it off. If he cannot find ways to repay the loan, he may lose the property through foreclosure. So most owners in such situation will rather sell it fast in the market with an attractive price. When we found a property with such problem, it is always important to ask our lawyer to perform a thorough check on seller's loan status with his bank. This is to make sure that the property is not already foreclosed by seller's bank. Because if it is already foreclosed by the bank, then it can only be purchased from bank's auction, not from the owner anymore. So this is something that we got to take note. Okay, the fourth reason of investment property selling cheap, which is I think the most common one, rundown properties. This usually indicates either a financial or management problem and maybe our clue to a very well-priced investment. But what causes a property to be neglected until it becomes rundown? Like vacancies. For example, an apartment or condominium building with continual vacancies is probably creating a financial burden to the owner. So the owner therefore is letting the property deteriorate, which in turn will create more vacancies. And then he will be motivated to sell it with a cheaper price.
Mm-hmm.
When we did not see a property or unsure of a vacancy problem in any building, we just got to watch the for rent advertisement in the newspaper for that building. When a building is continually running for rent ads, it may have a vacancy problem. The for rent signs always on the property may be another indication, like those banners hanging out of the house or the apartment. But don't be fooled. Some owners keep a sign or run the continued advertisement just especially on those larger properties just to be certain that they have a tenant queue up when the next vacant unit is available. But when you find a property that always has a vacancy, try to analyze the reason first.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because the rent is too high, or because the condition of the building is really run down, or because of the poor management, etc. Or perhaps maybe a change in the type of tenants will keep the building occupied. Like for example, just switch from young couple to elderly or families with small children and so on. The second possibility for a building to be run down is a management problem. This usually occur in one of two ways. Like when the owner is trying to milk his investment. In other words, that getting all he can out of the property without putting any money back. He's failing to realize that eventually it will catch up with him, and he will have a difficult time to turn his property around again. The other possible problems caused by management is when the owners lives in another city or state far away from the properties. He may have engaged someone to manage his property for him, and that manager is just doing as little as possible, and the physical appearance of the property is beginning to suffer. From our experience, majority of the cheap properties that we can find belong to this category.
Poor management.
So it becomes, yes, poor management, which cause the rundown properties,
Okay.
and also the vacancies also. So it becomes one of our essential skills as a real estate investor to be able to patch up these kinds of properties and turn it profitable again. Okay, the next reason for a cheap property is length of ownership. This is when the present owner has owned the property for quite some years. He may have an interest in selling. We can find out how long the present owner has owned this property by checking the recorded deed at the nearby land office. So, for example, a owner, let's say 20 years ago, he bought that house, and after 20 years, maybe his children grow up or whatever, and also he has seen the appreciation of the house by maybe 200%, 300%. So this may be the time for him to consider to sell it away and move to another new house, and also take away the profit accumulated over years. Okay, the last reason for a property to be sold cheap is foreclosure auction. Foreclosure properties by banks are additional sources of cheap investment property, but it is quite a certainty that we are buying a problem if we buy a foreclosure property. Even if the price is a bargain, maybe 50% below the market value, this type of investment is not recommended for a beginning investor, because we want our first few investment to be as trouble-free as possible. So that's why we don't discuss more about foreclosure or auction property in this course, but we share some information about how to invest in auction property in other articles in the other website of my blog. Okay, so now let's look at a different approach to locate a property other than to look for those cheap property. If we want to so-called try a direct approach to find the owner directly and ask him if he would consider to sell property to us, this is one of the options that we can try to locate some property. And how to find the owner, okay, is one of the so-called the skill, or one of the method that we have to know. How do we find out who owns a specific property? Okay, the nearest land office has a complete records of all the deed transfer, all the transaction, and this information is available to public. So we can always engage a conveyance lawyer to perform a land search for a property if we know its address. So that's why we have to locate a specific property from land office. We need some legal description. We also need a lawyer to help you. It will be easier. So the cost will be, I think it's about 150 to 200 ringgit for a title search. And the land search result will tell us who owns the property and the details of the property, including the status like a Bhumiputra reserve or not, or non-Bhumiputra. Another simple approach, a more simple approach to find the owner of a property is by asking around the neighborhood of the property which we are interested in. So just walk around and knock the door of the neighbors of the property. Then you may just get the contact of the owner easily and also in a very faster way. Here we would like to highlight, okay, when come to locate the property ourselves, we locate the property ourselves, we use agents to locate a good investment property. Do not limit ourselves to just one choice, although this can be quite difficult. Sometimes when we have, how to say, we have the mindset of first come, first serve. We are through sometimes no time to look for it because it's really draggy for us to continue to search for so-called good property that meet all our requirements. But after all, we should have at least two that seem to meet our investment requirements, so that we can compare at least the two options. We can compare the detail and to determine which one is the best for us. We may also find that we are unable to purchase our first choice in a way that is acceptable to us. So it is nice to have a second possibility to fall back on. Once we have determined in our own mind and on paper and the maximum we are willing to pay with the most restricted terms we can accept, do not compromise our position. So here we must know what we want and what is our requirement according to our investment goals. So once we know that, try not to compromise our position, because this is how to say, this is the objective for us to plan properly before we go and hunt for investment. If we just give ourselves excuse to compromise any terms or any plan that we have already prepared before, we may, how to say, lost track from our initial plan or investment.
Yeah, I think this is a very good. Yeah, I think this is a very good advice. You're saying that we should, like, once we have set our criteria, we should stick to it,
stick
right?
to the plan.
Don't give any excuse. Say, oh, this property probably I can put in more money and then turn it around hopefully, but it shouldn't be a hopefully thing, right? It should be something that we have to be firm with.
Yes, the firmer we are able to, how to say, the firmer we are, the lesser the risks that we are exposed to. So always stick to the plan, because all the risks has been calculated before that in our plan. So we should stick to that plan and try not to compromise that position, so that the potential risks that we may face in future will be minimized. And of course, if we really cannot purchase the properties on the terms that we can live with, drop it and find another property. In the first place, our purchase requirement must be reasonable, of course, and in line with the current market situation. But if based on all the criteria and all the market situation, we really cannot find a property that can meet our term, then we will just have to proceed maybe to a different area or different kind of property and so on. Okay, so here, do not hold out for non-existent bargain, is to highlight that we always have to be reasonable to whatever requirements that we put in our plan, and also have to be in line with the current market. So once we are sure that our requirements are reasonable and in line with the market situation, then just spend more time, okay, give ourselves choice to see whether the possible investment will come in or not. So if you cannot purchase the property on the terms that we want, that we can live in, just drop it and find another property and move on. Okay, here we would like to now we discuss the property details to check before we buy an investment property. Once we have located the investment property that we feel has what we want, we need to find out more information about it before we get involved in detailed analysis of like income, expenses, and financing. All this detailed analysis will be discussed in the next module. So first thing to check about the property is the age of the property. I think this is also the question that the first question we pose to check the agent. Okay, when a property is old, repairs or expenses on replacement of appliances may be expected. This should be taken into consideration in the price we are willing to pay for the property. However, do not give up an older building, okay, just because some repairs or replacements are needed. Those expenses can be written off through tax deduction, which is a form of a discount on repair costs. Let me show you how tax deduction can be a discount on repair costs through an example. Assuming we are in the so-called the highest 26% tax bracket, and say our taxable rental income of a new investment property is 1,000 ringgit, we are supposed to pay a tax of 260 ringgit. But we spend 100 ringgit, for example, for repairs when we first bought the property, maybe just to patch up some wall or whatever. Now our taxable rental income become 900 ringgit after the repair, and the tax we need to pay is now 234. There is a 26 ringgit saving in our tax, and this is exactly a 26% discount on our repair costs. So if we are able to see this, okay, the saving in the tax is in fact a kind of a discount on every cent that we spend on to repair the property. So that will be a kind of an incentive for us, because I think most of the investors, sometimes even house owner, they will be quite reluctant to fork out any money. They will try to minimize the cost and come to repair. But I think I did highlighted many times in the previous module, for a property that well maintained is always so-called worth investing the repair cost in order to get the maximum return. And from this example, we can see that we are only spending 74 cents for each ringgit of repairs, and Malaysia government is contributing the other 26 cents. So this makes the cost of repairs actually quite inexpensive. It's a discount from the tax.
Yeah.
Okay, the second detail that we need to check about the property before we buy is rental history. So look at a property that is a few years old. Has it enjoyed a high occupancy level over the past few years? What happened to its occupancy or rent level during the period of especially economic slowdown? There are two easy ways to find out whether or not a property is easily tenanted. The least accurate check is to look at the mailboxes. So blank slots, for example, mailboxes in apartment or condominium may indicate vacant apartments.
For quite some time.
And the second one.
So if there are a lot of different names in the letters, then you know that there are many tenants stayed there before.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the second one, the more accurate check is to drive by the building at night and see if the parking spaces are filled. So this test won't work during the daytime because most of the tenants are usually gone.
Yeah.
So we can also observe how many units are so-called lit on after 8 o'clock at night. So this is one of a simple way for us to ensure that the buildings is occupied or is the occupancy level uh,
Yeah.
how many people
So,
are staying there.
according to your experience, by looking on the light at night, so is it like, when if you see maybe what's the best time to go, like maybe 9 o'clock or something, then if you see like
Normally, I think after 8 o'clock
after
or
8 o'clock,
9 o'clock,
and then
especially after dinner time.
how many percentage of lights is considered good vacancy?
Yeah, to me, I will do a quick count. For example, when I hunt for apartment, I will do a quick count. Minimum, I expect more than 60%. So you just have a quick count of how many windows that you're able to in total, then how many are so-called empty. Then of course you can come again tomorrow or next week and to double check whether is it consistently so many people so-called staying inside there.
Yeah. And then the car
So this
also, you're
is
saying
yes, the
is
car
quite
also in the
accurate
parking
also, right?
space also.
By looking at the car.
Yeah, especially the parking space. This inspection gives us an idea of the quality of the tenants in the building also. Like when the parking lots are all filled with motorcycles, for instance, don't expect that building to be occupied by a wealthy or retired people, right?
Yeah. You're right.
Okay. The third things to check is the neighborhood of the property. What kind of properties surround the property that we are considered to buy? Is ours the only well-kept building on the street? We may have trouble to continue keeping it that way. They mean keeping it the only well-kept building. If the property is surrounded by many rundown properties, why? Because a deteriorating area is usually followed by difficulty in renting, and therefore the vacancy will climb as well. So it's very important for us to look around when we view the property. We have to go and look around the surrounding as well to make sure the neighborhood of the property is so-called that's almost the same quality as what we wanted. Okay, the number 4 details for us to check about the property is building condition. So we have to ask ourselves when we go and view a property, what is the physical condition of the building? Is it well maintained? Normally our sales and purchase agreement SPA give us the option of having at least a termite inspection made by a licensed inspector. So this kind of inspection is very important. So not just the appearance of the building, but also inside the building, we should do some so-called inspection also to make sure the conditions is good. Otherwise, we have to factor in the potential cost or the repair cost that we have to prepare as part of our so-called acquired purchase cost.
So who do you employ to actually get to do the termite inspection? Is it the pest control company?
Yes, pest control. Normally, you the pest control. A few pest controls contractors are so-called the contacts. We should keep that contacts. It will be quite handy even for existing our own existing properties that we already tenanted. You may not know whether in future tenant will report a termite problem. So just have a few contacts or all these so-called pest control people. Then they just call them and they will just do a quick check for you. So normally, other than the option that after we sign the SMP, even before that, sometimes we can negotiate with the owners. If the owners are so confident enough, then we are able to so-called let our so-called our pest control people to go and just go one round for a quick check. So this will only tell us what repairs we may be facing other than termite problem, but will also give us an indication of the types of tenants that are renting the building, whether those tenants they really take care or not of the place they stay. So from that kind of inspection, the building condition we are able to tell. The next things to check is amenities. Amenities such as, for example, for apartment and condo, clubhouse, swimming pool, tennis courts, laundries, affect how our property can compete with other rental properties in the area. But major amenities like tennis courts and swimming pool may not be justified on smaller complexes because in return the management costs and the sinking fund required may be relatively higher. Other amenities which are value added but yet maintenance free that we should so-called look around are like nearby supermarket, provision or convenience stores, hospital, restaurant, bus stops, banks, and so on. These are the amenities that are maintained by other people, but yet providing the residents convenience for their daily needs. So all these are considered so-called important amenities that make the properties become so-called livable to tenants or even to the next owner. The next property detail to check is parking. In today's society, parking has become a serious problem. Almost every family in Malaysia has at least one car. So it doesn't matter what kind of property that we are going to invest. We better think twice if that property does not have enough parking space. 2 parking spaces per unit are desirable but not necessary, but minimum we require at least 1 car park lot. And here take note also, if the property is situated on a main street, for example like houses or shop houses, if all or just part of the parking spaces are located in front of the street, we have to imagine what will happen to the parking lot if the street is widened. So this must be taken into consideration also. So if the next time the street is widened really, what other places that you or your guests able to park their vehicles? Okay, the last things to check about property is whether the properties is that you are going to buy is furnished or unfurnished. There's something to be said both for so-called for and against furnished property. Okay, first the bad news about furnished properties is furnished properties normally require more maintenance. The furniture will not last too many years, and tenants, I think we all know most of the time tenants will not be as careful with the furniture as those as they are their own furniture. While on the other side of the coin, for the good news, furnished properties like for example apartment, they are usually on a high demand, and they can also demand higher rent. It is also easier, quick, and faster to find tenant for a furnished property. And this is an advice from many experienced real estate agents that we come across. According to all these experienced agents, a good first impression of the property always helps them close their deal faster. So it is to us as an investor, it is worth it for us to invest more on furnish or even to furnish up an empty property so that it will facilitate next time when the agent try to help you to rent it out. And also in return, you will get a higher rental yield from your investment that you spend to furnish up the unit. Okay, here is a summary of what we have discussed about things to check before we buy any property. First is age of the building. Second is rental history. Third is neighborhood. Fourth is building condition. The fifth one is amenities around the property. The sixth one is parking space available to the property. Then the last one is whether it's furnished or unfurnished. These 7 basic details concerning the property will add to our evaluation of the investment property. So after this module, we are now ready to locate the property that we want. We can start practicing and executing our plan start to practice what we have just learned by shortlisting some good real estate agents, give them some call and try to ask them the questions, see who can go for extra miles and who are fast in the response. After that, we will have to, because after that we will have to gather some information of the properties, like income, expenses, and financing information. Because in the next module, we will learn how to use this information to make our own analysis of the property in order to determine how much we can afford to pay or how much is reasonable for us to pay for an investment property. This is one of the most important modules in this course, which we'll discuss in further detail in the next module. And members of Property Mentor will get an exclusive analytical tool, the Go Finance tool, which is very useful in identifying worth investing and worth financing investment in the next module. So for this module, after what we have learned, try to practice, start to call the agents, start to look around and start to practice our hunting skill for good property investment. And that's all for the presentation. Casey?
So thank you, Dr. Ong. Yeah, in fact, I guess this is now we get to the second phase of execution, and I guess many people got stuck at this stage where you want to hunt for property, and some just call some agents, and then finally they think that the good property is so hard to find, so they give up or they don't have time. What do you think is the key component? Like, what is the factor that will actually, if we've done one thing right, we will be able to find good property? So what do you think that is?
Here I would say that the key person will be a good property agent, a good real estate agent that we are really comfortable, and also we really so-called who really meet our requirements, okay, able to serve us, and who are so-called having a broad network, big pool of customer, big pool of tenants, big pool of sellers, even buyers. So we have to try to identify this all these personals. It will be easier for us to look for all these people than look for the property itself. So from my experience, it will be easier for us to find all these people through internet, through newspaper, or even through referrals. Okay, compared to if we go and look for the property themselves. But of course, most of the time when we look at, for example, the advertisement on the paper, when we see all those property listing, okay, first thing first, our main focus will be look at the property, right? Look at the property itself, whether the price is correct, whether the location is in our area of interest. So for a beginner, or at the beginning stage, we will be distracted once we get too many so-called choices of property that we need to consider. We need to analyze this, we need to go and take a look, we need to view that one. So bring ourselves back to focus on people. There's a so-called, there was an advice from a very successful entrepreneur to me. No matter what kind of business or what kind of investment we are doing, people is the most important thing that we have to look for in the first place before we are able to succeed. So look for the right people, look for the right team that we are able to work with, get that team in place first. And along the way, you'll find all the opportunities and all the so-called all the investments coming in to you, brought by all your team members. So that's why I highlighted in the previous slides that if you really can find someone that really can do the job very well for you as a property agent, do treat them well, do pay them well, and pay them in time their commissions.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because those people are people is the one who get things done, right? It's not like things that will come to you automatically, but it's all controlled by people, like, and made happen by the people. So
it's always people. We will be distracted by the money, the dollar sign, or whatever other things, but tell ourselves again and again, we have to focus. The whole world, the entire economy, all run by people. Without people, nothing can be done. Yeah, be it your agents, your contractor, your lawyers, your bankers, whoever. So that's why I learned from my mentor. Concentrate to look for good people first. Then good opportunity, good investment will come later.
Good, awesome. So the one very important things to do is, there's a second challenge on the slides. Shortlist the agents. So get the agents that is very active in your area where you want to invest, and network with them. They will help to find good deal for you, and they'll get things done.
Yeah, they'll get most of the things done for you.
Yeah. So we open the floor to any question if you want to ask regarding how to find cheap property, good property, and how to identify agent. Just type in the chat box, let us know, or else we are going to end this session in just a minute.
Any question?
We still don't have any from the live attendee. I guess your training is well
Yeah.
prepared.
Okay. It's okay. If you have any question, you can always post your questions or comment on the website, our
Yeah.
membership website. Then
So-
I'll try to answer as fast.
Yeah, you can ask a question anytime, in the module page. So it's just under this video, where this video will be embedded. Just type any of the question that is relating to this module in the comment, and we'll always get back to you. Daniel, here he asked a question. What's the commission of agent that is reasonable?
Commission for an agent is considered reasonable. Normally is about between 1 to 2%, as stipulated in the previous slides. Also as a guidelines from the authority, between 1 to 2%. Of course, if the transaction, the value of the transaction is higher, for example, more than 1 million or 2 million, sometimes the commissions can be is negotiable between the buyer and the agent, or the seller with the agent. So there's just a guideline. Between 1 to 2% is considered reasonable for those properties that below 1 million. For above 1 million, even bigger project, normally it will become smaller. The percentage will become smaller because of the absolute amount. So it's just a guideline for all the buyers and sellers.
I'm curious to know, when, let's say, a property transaction. So if there is two agents involved, so one is representing the seller, one is representing the buyer. So that one is quite clear cut. The buyer is going to pay his agent commission, like maybe 1%, and the seller is going to pay his own agent, right? So what if there is only one agent involved? So the agent is at the same time, finding buyer for the seller, and he is the only middleman that is going to
The
get
only
this deal
middleman
on.
between
So
buyer and seller.
who
This
is going
is
to
quite
pay?
not common.
Yeah, this is quite common in
Yeah,
Malaysia.
this is quite common. Normally in this case, if the agent is professional enough, the agent will only take commission from the seller.
Seller, yeah.
Yeah, from the seller. But of course, there's no so-called fixed rule about this, because it only governed by the guideline released by the authority, the board of valuer and estate agent.
Yeah.
Some agents may not follow. Some agents may require the buyer to pay also. So it again up to individual. For the buyer itself, sometimes it depends on our so-called our budget, and also our satisfaction about the service of the agent. Like I said, if you're really happy with the agent, if you think that he deserves that, then just to us, we don't mind to pay the so-called, as a buyer, we don't mind to pay the commission to the agent as well, as a reward to him.
Yeah. Okay, good. Hope you answer your question, Daniel. And just recently, I think this year, it is a requirement that all real estate agent who are, all the brokers who deal with properties, they have to have a license, and they have to carry it all the
Yes.
time, right? So I guess this also help us to screen through all those not qualified
Yes, yeah.
agents, which is a very good advancement in our local industry.
Yeah, it actually, it has been the so-called the enforcement has been there, just that recently they have to enforce it more.
Yeah.
So that's why most of the time you see that the name card of the agent, they will just put it real estate negotiator.
Yeah.
Those that are they are doing real estate agent's job as a middleman, as a salesman for some agency.
But they don't have the
So
license, you know.
yeah, but we cannot blame them also because I did speak to a few agents, to those very experienced one. Even one of my senior from UTM, they are running their own agency. They also say that to get a license, real estate agency license is not easy in Malaysia. So it's just how to say it, it's a both side issue. Okay, the system itself doesn't allow so-called the individual real estate agent to get the license easily. So that's why people have to find other means, right? The market itself demand for many real estate agent to serve buyer or seller, but the system itself not able to supply enough license. So that's why they have no choice but to work under the agency as a real estate negotiator. So don't be so-called I would say that you may find good real estate negotiator doing even better job than real estate agent itself. So it's really up to individual because this industry really depend on experience.
Okay. Good, so we don't have any more questions. So thanks all for attending, and we will see you again
you.
when we schedule the next training. Goodbye.
Okay, thank you everyone. Bye.